And what I'm going to talk to you about is the journey that we've been on. I imagine, well, I was here 2 years ago, sitting, not knowing anything about GovDelivery, thinking, I've come from the corporate sector, I know we need email marketing, the council's never done it, they seem to do some really strange things in terms of email marketing, in my opinion at the moment. How am I going to take them on that journey? And what kind of systems are out there, specifically for the public sector rather than the private sector, from which I'd come. So I'm going to talk about our pre-July 2012 and post-2012 and where we've been, why an email marketing system and why GovDelivery, the journey it took to acquire an email marketing system. It wasn't a foregone conclusion that this was going to happen. Unfortunately, I thought it was just it was a no-brainer, but there were a lot of people to convince on the way. The targets that we set ourselves and the outcomes we've got to so far, and then some top tips for you guys if you're considering on going on this journey too. So, pre-July 2012, this was kind of the landscape. We relied on Outlook to send all of the group emails that we sent as an organisation. Service areas very much managed their individual email lists, and there was no centralised management or segmentation. We didn't dedupe, so we had duplicated email addresses, and we had very poor and inconsistent ways of managing any unsubscribes. So in many ways we were spamming people. We were unable to make emails visually appealing due to email size limits. And we had no idea whether any of this information that we were sending out was actually effective for the people that we thought should be reading it. So we now have a system called Stay Connected that we've branded. We have a total of 65,000 unique subscribers, 9,453 of which are signed up via our website or via the GovDelivery network. And the remainder are uploads. So we realised when I went on this journey quite how much email data existed across the organisation in various different systems, and we have been bringing that together into one centralised system. For me, we have a very fervent local newspaper called the Daily Echo, and I also manage our PR function. Often that is the uncontrollable kind of marketing side of things, and for us it's very much trying to create a cost-effective, controllable marketing tool. And now we have 35 listed topics for both the public to subscribe to, and over 3,766 people are subscribed to 6 or more alerts. So, we very much have a set of segmented topics for people to sign up to, and people take what they want. So they might sign up to the schools alert, but they'll also be signing up to city events, and they might also be signing up to our emergency alerts because of snowy weather. We've got 10 private topics. So what I realised is, when I was going around and talking to teams about their email lists, is some obviously wanted to be talking to external public, but a lot of our emails that we were sending out to groups were all partnerships. So we were sending it to the police, we were sending it to the fire service, the ambulance, and then in other areas you've got various different sort of professional emails that are going back and forth. But it's just important to get those right, as it is those that are going to our citizens. We've got a hell of a lot of subscriptions. I'm not going to go through all the figures, or otherwise I'll bore you completely, but we've got a huge amount of subscription. That covers off all of the alerts and all of our subscribers. We've sent 2.3 million email alerts since July 2012, which I can't even believe, but Emma, who's sitting next to me, certainly can, because she's our super user, and if you want to speak to her, you can. And we're now sending between 5 and 12 emails every week. So we're busy. The thing that's most important for me is that what I wanted to do was create a system that actually was useful for the end user. And our open rate is between 25% and 60% for our alerts. So we feel this is really good, setting ourselves against the industry standard. In terms of what that looks like for us, although I'm the communications manager within Southampton City Council. The website isn't necessarily controlled by communications, but we control parts of the website. When we were able to put the Stay Connected sign up to e-alerts on the front page, which is obviously very, very good because it's very visible to people, but we've also put links throughout the website as well. We also have sister websites that we control, and we're able to put the sign up on there. Just to give you a flavour of the alerts that are most popular for our citizens at the moment, library service comes out top. It was, to be honest, it's very much the information part of that library service, and there was a big database that we could transfer, so that made that the largest subscriber base. Things like sustainable travel, that's just grown incrementally from the start. City events, culture vulture, we have quite a lot of venues that we need to promote. I imagine some of you guys too do too, and they have quite hefty income targets that are increasing. So for us, it's really important that we're finding a cost-effective channel to encourage people to go to our Sea City Museum, to go to our art gallery, etc. Waste and recycling, local news updates. So, as I say, we've got a list of 35, but it gives you a flavour of the highest subscribers, and I try and encourage our internal teams to be a little bit competitive against each other for subscribers as well. So why did we do an email marketing system? Well, for me, I said it's a no-brainer. It's a very cost-effective communications channel. There's been research to show that people spend 9 minutes a day looking at their emails on their mobile phone alone, and it just seems strange if we weren't being able to use this channel in an effective way. It has improved customer satisfaction, and we'll be showing you some of our research that shows that, because I wouldn't be a satisfied customer if I was being spammed. I didn't know why you were sending it to me. I'd given an email address to someone 3 years ago, and somehow it's ended up here. So, we need to have the customer at the heart of what we're doing. It supports a centralised communication strategy. When I joined the council, a lot of functions have been devolved, and that devolved versus centralisation argument is one that you have on lots of different things within your council communications team. For me, this was something that needed to be centralised in order for it to work effectively. And also, it supports a research-based communications model. I know who's clicking on what open rates, whether people are actually finding what we're sending them useful or not. And in terms of why GovDelivery, I looked at a whole host of email marketing software, and for me, the model that GovDelivery have works well financially, because you're paying based on your population size. You're not paying relating to the number of licenses you have, and we devolve the creation of these emails out to our teams, although we manage the kind of approving of them. And so I couldn't be limited to maybe 10 licenses, because it just wouldn't be manageable. The system also allows automation, and we also are gaining subscribers through the GovDelivery network, which is 2.8 million across the UK. So we are using our collective ability on that. So how did I go on this journey? Well, the picture kind of alludes to that it was, had some hills to climb. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would, and it certainly wasn't a no-brainer in many people's eyes. So I identified the need when I arrived in post, which is June 2011, and I put a recommendation paper into our central management team, and said, look, these are all the email lists that we have across the council. We really need to look at how we're managing this better. We outsource our IT to Capita, so we talked to them about doing an options appraisal that met our criteria, and I had a chat with other local authorities. What are they doing? What's working for them? I also had a chat to our what we call the user group now. those people that were using emails and using Outlook, and people spend a lot of time, and sometimes they're spending a lot of time making it very nice and including clip art and lots of nice links, and they're really attached to it. And if I was going to ask them to change, then I had to take them on the journey just as much as I was taking our central management team on the journey. So really talking to them, explaining to them why I might be thinking differently. I presented our recommended option to the council management team after I'd been to this conference a couple of years ago, and we agreed to do a 3-month pilot to see how GovDelivery would actually work in practice. During that pilot, we did research both with our kind of administrators, so I'd taken away their nice Outlook kind of creations and given them a system that they had to log into and create things in a template, and it was different for them. So I needed to speak to them and find out how they were finding it, and I needed to speak to the customers and see how they felt about it. And our initial feedback was we were happy with. So we had 66% of customers rated the service good or excellent, another 25 okay, but we felt that was a good starting point. But also for us, informed ratings. I'm sure you guys know that your informed ratings affect your satisfaction ratings. I've got an echo. So for me, I really wanted to know that the information we're providing was actually useful. So 75% felt more informed about customer services, so that was great. So I went back to the council management team, said, brilliant, this works wonderfully, look, I've got all the research, I've got all the users, they're bought in, time to finance it. And they said, really great idea, but we've got no money. And as much as you've presented a brilliant case here, unless you go away and work out the next business case, which is how you're going to find this money, then it's not going to happen. So intake of breath, and we'd had our City View, which was our quarterly publication, cut. So I knew that wasn't going out anymore, and I did feel like there was a bit of an abyss in terms of our ability to communicate on a regular basis with our customers. So it was very much then looking at the print and design costs that we have as an organisation. We kept an eye, but let's just say this really focused my mind. And by looking at the costs that we incur in those other service areas, actually, we could see that there was a way that we could finance this. So I had to speak to a lot of teams, I had to go on that journey to be able to identify it, but by then making that case and going back to senior management team, they were convinced, and I was able to then take it further forward. We've worked with GovDelivery to sort of continue improve our service, and recently we've just done a kind of tracker survey, which I thought I'd share some of the findings with you, because we know that we're not doing everything perfectly, and we need to make sure that whatever we're doing with this service, it's getting better and better. We had 982 people respond to the survey. That was sent out via GovDelivery, which was compared to 677 last year, so that was increasing, which is good. And we had respondents from a wide range of age groups and across the city. We had a total of 81% of subscribers who rated the service excellent or good, so we've taken that up, 15% increase, and in a similar vein we had the increase to the informed rating as well, so brilliant news. We also asked a question about whether they'd recommend it to a friend, because you get that initial wave of people that sign up and then it's harder to increase, and 87% said they would recommend it to a friend, so brilliant. We don't have lots of marketing budget on this. We're using all the other free channels that we have to encourage sign-ups to stay connected. So we wanted to know that was going right. Some of the interesting things that came out, though, we get a lot of feedback that if you do the digital channels, you're wiping out everyone who's over 50, or the elderly. And it was quite interesting that actually 58% of our respondents to this survey were over the age of 50, and actually they seem to be the most engaged with this channel. And equally, we mapped the spread of respondents, so there wasn't any sort of pockets that there's one part of the city that's really engaged and another part that's completely not. So that's quite useful for us to see. We also mapped England, and we've got subscribers all over the place, so that was a little bit strange, but there we go. Some qualitative feedback. So excellent service that's helped me avoid closed roads already and keeps me informed about cultural events, keep up the good work. And it's a really convenient way to stay up to date with local news and developments. They like the What's On guide, which is very popular. We had a bunch of improvement points. We realised that our events alerts weren't being sent out early enough for people to plan their weekends, so obviously we need to get that done earlier. You speak to the events team, they said, oh, we don't have all the information till really late on in the day. So you've got, that's the way you can go back with research to your teams and affect it and say, no, that might be the case, but we've got to do it earlier, otherwise no one's going to come. Improve the cross-selling of alerts. So people knew that we did the news alert because they'd signed up 6 months ago, but they didn't realise there were another sort of 20 alerts that they could sign up to that might be useful to them. So we use banners at the bottom of the alerts to kind of cross-sell. Refreshing the look and feel. People get bored very quickly, so you need to be able to adapt those templates. We had these quite long intro sections to the email saying, hi, you've reached Stay Connected. And we realised that we didn't need that, so we were taking those off. We were sending out Twitter bundles via GovDelivery, which it can do, but for us it wasn't working well for our customers, so we ended up taking that down. We have also found the need for putting links onto our council meeting papers as well. So some of this has involved a bit of looking at integration, so we use ModGov for our council papers, etc. So how do you integrate there? We've just done a journey to integrate it with our Outlook service, because I want to send internal emails out using the service as much as external. It's taken a while, but we have just got there, so we've just been sending out our internal weekly bulletins. So I've been saying for a while, I'm not sure how many people are reading this, I don't know how many people are clicking on it, and the results are bearing out. So I'm doing an internal communications review, that's going to be very useful. In terms of our targets, our pilot was 1,000, so that was over 3 months, and we exceeded that. We had 4,000 for the first year, and we've exceeded that, and we're exceeding it at July 2014. So I might need to have to set some harsher targets for myself. But we were basing that on kind of feedback from GovDelivery and other councils as well. The outcomes are that we have a centralised data source, which is really helpful, and it's something that we can pull on also in times of emergency, which is great. We've got increased automation, so we had an RSS feed with all of our news going out, so that automatically sends out news bulletins. And we have a much better understanding of our effectiveness, much better, and it allows us to stop doing things, change what we're doing, or continue. We've created a recognisable brand. We have the headers that are a similar look and feel, although they've got a different take on for each subject. You can see some examples of the ones that we've put here. We've had the debate about, do you put all of the information in the alert? How much do you link through to? Do you do lots of snippets and do one every day, or do you do one every week or month? So you have to talk to your service area and you have to look at the results to see how that's going to work best for you, because it's different depending on the topic. For me, I feel that we've now got a new integral communications channel, which is great. We have reduced our spend on print. We've increased that automation. We've increased awareness of events, increased participation in consultation. Our consultation and research manager is extremely happy. Our participation in consultation has gone up immensely. We do include incentives, so we do include vouchers to our local shopping centre within that, but it's such a quick and easy way to get people involved. we've got much more frequent comms in terms of crisis, which is really useful. And we've also created a product which I think potentially could be sponsored. So we've got a couple of local organisations who are kind of coming to us and saying, okay, you send this out on a regular basis, can I have a banner ad at the bottom, how much would that cost me? So that's something that we'll have to sort of take on board. And I've just put some kind of bullet points of, if you are looking on this journey, how you might go on that. Use those internal ambassadors to sell the channel to other teams. Involve your design team in the branding and have a good stock of images. Make alerts consistent and visually appealing. Get the balance right between what you put in the alert and what you ask people to click through to. Train a member of your team to be a super user. We couldn't have done it without Emma, absolutely. Set up a sign-off process, so make it clear who's actually controlling what finally goes out. Prompt subscribers regularly to sign up to other alerts. You need to cross-sell. Use incentives when you can. One of the things that we did quite early on was GovDelivery was saying, you're not that click-through button, you're not making large enough, you're not making attractive enough. So we've had to do quite a lot of work on that. Market the e-alerts, use your other channels to market this service. They're not, they don't go to a website without you pushing them towards the website, but equally they're not going to sign up to this unless you tell them it exists. And link to the sign-up page in as many places as you can possibly imagine. And you think you've thought of all of them and then you realise you haven't. And your partner websites, you can use those as well. So try and use those wherever you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. That's fantastic. Do we have any questions and any? Oh, yes, quite a few. And also, since we're streaming, of course, there will be some tweets. Anyone that's communicating via Twitter, please do send in your messages, your questions as well. Who can we? Lady over here. Oh, sure.
Sarah Barrow from Woking Borough Council. Just wondering if you used any other methods for getting people to sign up other than the website.
We have used banners at events with the logo on. We put it on the bottom of our emails. We try and use every form of marketing that we have to try and cross-sell the service. So wherever we can put the Stay Connected logo and sign up to e-alerts via our homepage, we will put it.
Hi, Sarah Jones from the Unitary Council. And like yourself, we've got a number of lists of email addresses. We've got thousands within our CRM system, some with events where people sign up for a particular event. And we'd like to use those lists to promote other council services. But the advice that we've had from our information management team is that unless we've had express consent from the customer to use their email address for the purpose of promoting other council services, then we can't. And we feel there's the winning position when we've basically got to start from scratch. Was that your experience?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one actually, because what we found initially was that there were all these databases that exist, and people had generally got consent for perhaps one specific thing. So our libraries database, they had got consent. We were just sending out emails in a slightly different format. So we were able to upload their email addresses and send the same information to them, to that email address. But what we have done, and this is how we've approached it thus far, is that we then say, and we have a range of other alerts that you might like to sign up to. Now obviously they then have to consent to that, but we use that as a way to then convince them that perhaps they might want to have a look at what other options that are available. It's difficult if you haven't had any, if you've got no idea of any consents of your current list, then that's probably tricky.
The majority of our email addresses are within our CRM system, so we've gathered them for the purpose of updates on progress on the portal that they reported, for example. So they only given, although they haven't given express consent, we can email them for the purpose of providing an update on that particular request. but nothing else. It's different for, so I suppose, we do an annual event on New Year's Eve, we do a race, like a mini marathon type thing, and we've got thousands of email addresses where people have signed up to that event. So we're really limited in terms of what we can use those email addresses for. So I'm just wondering how you sort of handle that. You can only target that specific area, can you?
I think as long as if the content of your email is responding to that one thing.
Yeah, and then did you know that we also do this?
Yes, it's a bit like the Amazon scroller at the bottom that says, oh, and you might also like to buy. So, it's not that you're giving them all that information all at once, but you're just signposting them to perhaps something else. So that's how I would probably approach it.
Okay. I've got one more question, so I was hoping, Mike. You mentioned that you looked at your printing costs in terms of financing the product. How radical were you in terms of reducing your printed material?
We were already going in that direction, and we were very lucky because we have got a very supportive senior management team. We've got a very supportive leader and cabinet members as well in this area. So we weren't having to fight that battle. They were very much on board. And we were looking at things like our waste calendar, for example. We'd always previously printed and sent out, and we were talking about putting that on the website, but how would people know it was there? So we then used GovDelivery as the way of pointing people to the right place on the website so that they can download it and reminding them when any changes occurred. And then they were tending to sign up to the wider alerts as a result of that. Actually, the cost of the annual fee of GovDelivery, when you're looking at your print budget across the whole of an organisation, print design, advertising, isn't huge. It takes a bit of sifting. Budget lines in councils are, obviously very, very complicated, so you have to take the time to do it. But I'm sure a little bit of analysis will allow you to go at least part of that journey, and then at least you can be then saying, look, I've found this much, or perhaps we can redistribute this much to this new platform.
So it wasn't purely funded by reducing the printing costs then? You did look at other departments to help to fund the cost of it?
Yeah, we had to start somewhere. So with the pilot, they had to sign up to that cost initially, but then we have managed to find that amount of money across the board through other savings to carry on the annual fee, because otherwise it wouldn't be sustainable. We'd be able to go, okay, we can do it for this year, but what about next year and the year after? And if you're creating a channel, you don't want it to just be a flash in the pan.
So libraries pay an element of it, waste services will pay another element of their annual subscription. Is that how you work it?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't always work that you stop a piece of print and you start an email alert service. So actually, it's an organisation collective. So it might be that an area stops a piece of print and they may not actually do email marketing. They might be doing social media and they may do something in a different way. Because we always go with what the objective is rather than the channel first. Although it's very good to have a channel development, you don't automatically go, okay, well, email marketing is the right thing for you. So it didn't always translate like that, but in some cases it does.
Thank you.
Great questions there, and I think they're probably relevant to a lot of other people. And the back there.
Hi, Jane from Warwickshire County Council. It's just building on the question before actually, and the question about the pilot and a bit of retail question, I'm afraid. But I want to precisely what services you used in your pilot and how you funded that.
The pilot was funded by our central management team, and the from council budgets. I'm trying to remember who we had in our pilot, but we started off with kind of the usual, for us the obvious ones. So news, for example, we managed all of the news releases anyway. So we automated our RSS feed so that would go out via a news alert. Our events team had been using an email marketing system that was kind of built into our CMS. So they were very keen to be able to get on board with the new system. We were quite conscious that if we couldn't show print savings, that perhaps one other way was to show where we were encouraging self-serve. So we were pointing people towards online forms. So we were talking to our tax colleagues. I'm trying to remember. Emma, actually, you might be able to help me here. Benefits, council tax, events, waste was a natural one. So I'm trying to remember. We initially thought, okay, GovDelivery kind of advised, start small. You know, it's a pilot. Don't try and run before you walk. And we got a bit overexcited, and I'd spoken to too many people and been rather too passionate about it. And they were like, okay, we'll get on board. We'll get on board now in the pilot phase. So we started probably with about 15, which then grew to 20, which then grew to 25 pretty quickly.
Okay. And can I ask you how much it costs to do the pilot?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know the annual fee is it's just under 20k a year, so it's about 3 months of that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm John Cross from the Soccer Team. I've recently been at Sheffield City Council doing a district consultancy, and they've recommended your implementation of GovDelivery to me. I have to say I am very impressed with it. And also, as a New Forest resident, I'm a subscriber, so I'm not just looking at it from a professional perspective, but it's looking at a service user perspective. I'd be very interested to know how you kind of okayed remnants that were crept in after initial honeymoon period with services keen to publish email newsletters, not tailing or the content not being as good as it could be, and so forth. How do you address those kind of issues that inevitably pop up?
Yeah, it's tricky, and you know, it's trying to keep everybody engaged at our user group level is difficult. I must say that the reason why you need a super user is that your users within the service areas are not always going to adopt it as quickly. They're not always going to have the time, and there's been a lot of other pressures happening, whether people jobs are being in a precarious position. So you have to be able to help them walk through it. So, for example, at the beginning we said, okay, how often do you think you can commit to doing this e-alert? Do you have someone in your team who can write it? And Emma then would work with them to do that. There have been some teams where they would say, okay, I think we can commit to doing maybe one a month, and then 3 months goes and nothing's happened. And in all reality, we have to be very careful about that because people are subscribing in that time. So part of it is having to be quite clear and say, that's not acceptable. You've committed to doing this. And when I was going and talking to teams, I would talk to the managers as well as the people who were doing it, because I was sort of saying, you know, you've got to say that this is important for your team member to do, because if it doesn't happen, I'll be coming to you and saying this is an issue. So there's a little bit of that, but a lot of it is about relationship building with those users. A lot of it is about trying to understand what might be their barriers to doing it. And a lot of it is helping. It's about them holding their hands all the way through the journey and kind of saying, okay, this week it's hard and we can step in. And Emma has been fantastic for that, or otherwise we couldn't have had such a successful system. So it does involve, from a communications point of view, having that resource.
Okay, got time for one more question. Sorry, we could spend hours on this.
Hello, I'm Claire Holmes from North Devon Council. I have to say I'd be quite reluctant nowadays to invest in email because I think email is actually going out of fashion. And I suppose it's a question for GovDelivery really. I'd be far more interested in how I can manage all the interactions on social media rather than email, because I think email is dying out. So really it's a question for GovDelivery, I suppose.
So it's an interesting debate and one we've had with ourselves as well. But I would say, from my experience, and actually the research does play out that it is a channel that you would need in your mix. Everybody has their own personal preferences, but a lot of people go to email if they don't go to social media. They do both. And it would appear from our sort of demographics that we've got a lot of people who are signed up to email who aren't on social media at all. We seem to have quite different audiences. There is an overlap, but we wouldn't be reaching a lot of our audiences if we weren't in that email space. Perhaps if we'd carried on our printed communications, but we just don't have that luxury. So for us, it works, but it does depend on your demographics. It does depend on what other options you're able to provide as a council.
I think it would be good to take that offline, because in our experience, email is anything but dying out. It's very much in the forefront. I think we have
Just
one
so
more
I
question. Oh, sorry.
I was going to
Okay.
jump in there quick. I guess email is a bit boring, but that's certainly the perception of it. We've helped UK government get over 2.8 million people signed up to email. And I think the reason for that is that a social experience with government isn't necessarily the thing that a lot of people are looking for. To become the fan or a friend or a follower on social media isn't always the coolest thing, especially for the younger generation. If you're interacting with government, email is a professional channel. It's a way of actually engaging without giving too much information. If you use it well, and Southampton are doing it, and Central Bedfordshire have done it really, really well, you use the email to pull people to the social channels. So Central Bedfordshire have increased their Facebook fans by 60% and their Twitter followers by 40% by using email as a way of driving the traffic to the right place. So it's definitely not about one channel versus the other, because you have different audiences on the different channels. It's about using all of the channels sensibly. And our experience is email is the one that people engage with first, but use it to drive elsewhere.
I have one more question, then we go to a break. Okay.
It's very quick. It's Tom from Croydon. You say what service had the biggest web sign up, and sort of what proportion was signed up through the GovDelivery network as opposed to the web or input or database imports?
Which has rather than database imports.
Yeah.
So the one that we've had the highest increase, because it was from scratch, we didn't import any data, was sustainable travel. We have done we were lucky to win Department for Transport funding to do what we call our My Journey campaign. So we've had a big brand awareness campaign, and we're directing people away from car travel onto sustainable modes. So that's probably, that's one of the things you can use it for. You can use it really effectively in a campaign marketing mix, and I think that's played out.
And do you know what proportion have signed up through the GovDelivery network as opposed to your own website?
It's a very good question. I'm looking to Emma. I probably have got the stats. I'm afraid I used to be able to keep them all in my head, but then they keep changing. So I can find that out for you. I'm sure I can provide that for you.